everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today we've got another DPMS Oracle on the table. The only difference between this one and the other one we previously reviewed is this one is the AR-10 pattern version. It's chambered in 7.62 by 51 NATO, or in the case of the DPMS, it can shoot .308 as well. This particular rifle is 32.5 inches long from end to end when the stock is collapsed, and it is 36.5 inches long when the stock is extended. The DPMS stock, it's the same stock that goes on both of the rifles. It uses a little button to release it and extends and collapses. It's actually quite a nice stock. Right from the factory, it's really solid. It locks in well. We did add this limb saver pad to it. It's standard AR-15 style limb saver pad. And this does a really good job of absorbing the recoil. When you combine it with the weight of the gun, which is 8.3 pounds in the factory configuration, that's before we added some of the accessories that we'll show you, and that limb saver pad, you actually get a surprisingly light recoil for a very powerful round. The barrel on this is a 16-inch barrel, and it's 4140 chromalloy, and it's a 1 in 10 twist. So with that twist rate, you can shoot pretty much any 7.62 or .308 ammo without a problem. The upper and lower are made from billet 7029 T6. The upper is actually extruded, the bottom is the lower is billet, but the 7029 T6 aluminums are very strong aluminum. So you're going to get a very durable rifle, and with the aluminum also cut some of the weight. Most of the parts on this rifle are going to be different between the AR-15 and the AR-10 as far as the functional parts, the internal parts, the bolt carrier, the buffer tube, the spring. Some of the other parts are a little more interchangeable. For example, the fire control group, the buffer tube itself, but not the spring and the buffer piston, and the stock and the grip are all interchangeable. The magazines, it comes with a factory DPMS magazine, but you can also use the Magpul LR SR magazines with it. And it does work perfectly with these Magpul magazines, just the standard PMags. This is a 20 rounder. I do see that they now make a 25 rounder as well that will work with this rifle. Some of the things that we've done with this is we've taken the original factory Glacier Guard, which is kind of just a cone-shaped double clamshell plastic guard that comes factory with it, and we replaced it with the same quad rail that we put on the other AR-15. And I'll put some links in the description to some of the parts that are on this. A couple of the parts, like this quad rail, they don't make this specific one anymore, but other ones very similar to it are available. The other thing we found with the quad rail, and you may find this with some other parts, we had to do a little bit of grinding and filing on the quad rail itself to make clearance on the top of it for the gas tube. Since everything's bigger on this rifle, the gas tube's a little thicker, the barrel's fatter, and everything stands up a little more, I did have to modify the quad rail. I didn't touch the gun at all, but I modified the quad rail to clear that gas tube and fit. Some of the other things we've put on it, it comes from the factory with the flat top Picatinny rail. We added these Swamp Fox flip up sights, and they just flip up, and they are adjustable. One of the things we're finding with these work great on the AR-15. On this particular rifle, what we found is this pin right here that my finger is by started to back out from the recoil. So I've put some blue Loctite on it and see if that holds that pin, but we may find that these inexpensive little sights might be at their limit on the AR-15, and we may find that on the .308 platform they've exceeded their limit, they're just not going to take the recoil. So next time we have it out to the range, we'll see if that Loctite has solved that issue. The red dot you've seen on a number of our rifles, and we've actually got an actual review on this. It's the Trugo red dot. It's multicolor, multi-reticle. You can get a red reticle or a green reticle just by switching with the lever, and with a lever under the front here, you can change the format of the reticle. And I'll put a link to our full review on this. This has worked well on multiple guns we've got, and it holds zero and works quite well even on the powerful .308. The quad rail it's an aluminum quad rail. I'll pull a couple of these off and you can see the rails, and they're even numbered to make it a little bit easier when you go to put something, if you take something off, go to put it back on. And this particular one came as a kit with these little protectors. The protectors aren't really necessary, but they do make it a lot nicer on your hands than grabbing the kind of angular aluminum. They're beveled and rounded a little bit, but it's still much more pleasant to grab a hold of a rubber pad than it is to grab a hold of, bare metal. We added a couple other things. We put another one of these Swamp Fox sights, and this one did the same thing. The pin backed out, so I've Loctited this one as well. Now, this is mounting right on the gas block, and it's important to note the gas block gets hot. So you have to use steel sights if you want to mount them on the gas block. You have to use gas block height sights, and you want to make sure that when you're working with this sight, it's going to get hot along with the gas block. So once you start shooting, if you're going to flip it up, check it real quick. Get your finger close to it before you actually touch it, because it may be unpleasantly hot. The other modification we made to this is this grip pod. It's a forward grip / bipod. And there's a button right up here on the front, right there, that if you push it, the bipod pops out. And you can actually stand the gun up on it. And you can stand the gun up on it with the magazine in place, and you can see even there's a little clearance under it. Now the 25 rounder may stick down a little bit and start to create a clearance issue, but with the 20 rounder or any of the smaller mags or the factory mag that comes with it, it works fine. And it gives you a nice solid bipod that you can also use, to tilt the gun, support the front of the gun. And when you're done with it, you just collapse it, push it back up, and it goes up out of the way. Now, I would note on this, most of the parts you're seeing on this are inexpensive parts. The red dot was $60, $70. These Swamp Fox sights were $30 or $40 for a pair. The quad rail was in the $30 to $40 range. And these inexpensive parts actually work quite well. I would not go inexpensive on this. I've seen a number of clones of these grip pods. These grip pods are in the $120-ish, $130 range. I've seen a lot of clones of these. And one of the big differences is the reinforcement, the steel reinforcement at the top of this that the grip pod has, that most of the clones don't. And you actually do run a severe risk of having it snap right through here or snap through here on the cheaper clones. And you really don't want to have a fully loaded rifle that you're holding the forward grip on and have that grip fail while you're actually using it. So don't go cheap on the forward grip. That's not a place to save money. Overall, this gun has been extremely reliable. It's accurate. You'll see in the video that we're pounding away at a gong that's at about 90 yards and having no difficulty putting the rounds on that gong. The recoil, after we probably put 60-ish rounds through the gun that day between the two of us, and there was no sore shoulders or any other feeling that we'd been shooting it. It's really a pleasure to shoot. It's reliable. It's well constructed. With the chromoly barrel and the 7029 aluminum, it should be a long-lived, reliable rifle. And if you're looking for an AR-10 pattern rifle, they retail around $1,100, and you can find them back and forth in that neighborhood. You get a lot of rifle for the money, especially in the .308 round. And one other thing I'll note is that 7.62 .308 is different than 5.56 and .223 in the relationship between the two of them. In the 5.56 .223, with maybe a possible exception here and there, you can show .223 in any barrel marked 5.56, but not the reverse. 7.62 .308 is the opposite. In most cases, you can shoot 7.62 in any .308 barrel, but you cannot shoot .308 in a 7.62 barrel. It gets into pressure curves, headspace, and a few other parameters. I spoke with DPMS on 2 separate occasions to make sure that I was correct on this particular rifle and that I got a good, correct answer from them. But DPMS specifies and headspaces and rates their barrel and chamber to be able to shoot both. So this 7.62 rifle, you can safely shoot .308 in it all day long and not have to worry about any malfunctions. But you do want to be careful because the 7.62 .308 is the reverse of what you're used to. A few other details that this rifle has. It does have a forward assistance, a functional forward assist, and it does have a dust cover. One of the things you tend to find in rifles in this price category is they'll omit the dust cover, the forward assist, or both. Now, we're not going into battle with this. We're not going to be taking this into the trenches, so some of these characteristics may be more cosmetic for the way we're going to use the rifle, but it definitely is part of the look you expect. And with the dust cover, it does keep dust, debris, rocks, whatever else you got, ejected shells from rifles nearby from getting in here and messing it up. It's easy to cycle. It does lock back on the last round hold open. I've got an empty mag in it right now, and it locks back. And it's just a truly robust platform. I'm going to take it apart real quick just to show you what some of the characteristics of it look like. So I'll pop the mag. Disassembly for the first stage is relatively easy. You just pop the pin forward and then pull it up with your finger and you separate it. It basically breaks open kind of like a break action shotgun, and at this point you can gain access to clean the lower receiver parts, and you can also pull out the bolt. And you'll see that the bolt it's a big, heavy, robust bolt. That's one of the characteristics of the AR-10 platform, that the bolt is just everything's bigger on this. And you've got the gas tube up at the top, which is staked and pinned so that you're not going to have any separation. And there you got the breech face. Now it looks very similar to an AR-15 bolt, it's just the diameter is going to be a little bit bigger. Now one of the things I've noticed on this particular one, the firing pin fell out, and the reason the firing pin fell out isn't that there's any kind of a defect with it. There is a little retaining pin that likes to fall out when you disassemble the rifle, but it won't fall out when the rifle's in use, being operated properly. When you disassemble it, if you got it on its side, this may fall out, which of course makes it fairly easy to clean. You pop this out, firing pin comes out, then you rotate the bolt around, pull this pin out, pull the bolt out, you can clean all the components, and it's very easy to get inside and clean. Now if you want, you can also pull this pin forward, and it will allow you to separate completely the upper and lower. The pins are captive, you won't lose them, and when you're all done, you just put it back together, which is actually relatively easy. It's just a little more difficult to do it when you're trying to do it on camera. One thing you do have to make sure of that when you go to put it back together is that you pull the bolt forward. Bolt has to be forward for it to go back together, because the bolt would have been pulled, when you pulled back on it, it would have unlocked and pulled the bolt forward. If you have the bolt partway back, then it won't want to go back together. Slide it back into place. Slide the two pins back up. Drop the pin back in place and you're done. You're back reassembled. Ready to function. On the other side of the rifle, you've got your standard fire control, safe and fire, and you've got the bolt catch release. Now this one doesn't have the ambidextrous capability, so fire control, the safety switch, the selector, and the bolt release are both on the left-hand side of the gun, set up for a right-hander. But this does use standard AR components for this part of it, and you could replace it with either a bad lever or any of the other things that you might want to do to reverse those settings, just like an AR-15. So, if you're looking for an AR-10, you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on it, you want to get one while you still can, given the current political climate, give the DPMS a serious look. I don't think you'll be disappointed, and they have proven to be quite reliable. So, and at the price point of around $1,100, $1,200, depending on where you're at, it's not really a very expensive rifle to get into the 308/762 territory. If you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, check us out on Facebook, and have a great day. Thank you.